Love that that the open there from our guys Tanny and Alex Kuhn included you saying this team might be better than I thought they were. That has rolled around my head since you said it on the post game. What kind of factors led you to say that and feel that?
Well, when you watch film, as you guys do, you're always looking for things that are repeatable. By that I mean, what can win on the road, what can win at home, what carries from game to game, right? And this team, I think if you're worried about anything, it's the fact that they're plus 10 in the last 3 games and only won each 2 games by 1 point, right? And they're averaging over 3.5 takeaways a game. And I've been taught well by my former teammates that it's not turnovers, the defense takes it away. So they've been taking it away, and they've been doing a great job of that. They keep that up, obviously, that leads to a lot of wins. But the 2 things I saw, and I'm sure you guys saw also, was all of a sudden very tough against the run, adding Kyler Gordon, TJ Edwards back into the defense, right, lining up properly, kind of unleashing Tremaine Edmonds to just run at plays with his speed and his athleticism. Andrew Billings now the starting nose guard since Grady Jarrett's been out, moving Javon Dexter to 3 technique, kicking Shamar Turner out to DN. I thought the defense looked as good as I've seen it against the run. And anybody who watched the Bears before thought they were going to lose against the Commanders going into the game, the number 1 rushing offense in the NFL because of that factor alone, right? But obviously the takeaways early helped. And then, guys, they started running the ball. And they wanted to go to nickel. They went to 3 wides a lot. They went to 3 wide receivers. And that lined up the Commanders in a very specific front that was advantageous to the Chicago Bears. And Ben Johnson and his staff did an amazing job, guys, with motion and confused. I've never seen Bobby Wagner that confused on where to fill in his run fit. So great job by them. But those 2 things are repeatable, and you can beat a lot of football teams, obviously, running the ball, playing defense, and getting takeaways like we know around here.
Oh, Ben Johnson talked about how they cut down the volume of plays, but as you point out, they had some shifts, some motions. They were doing stuff with less. And I wonder, is that how do you think about that as a formula for this offense growing, where isn't the Denny menus of plays, it's a good size, and you just kind of change the way that it looks?
Yeah, and first and foremost, Lawrence, what you said right there is just really good coaching, right? Really good, okay, we'll make it complicated for the defense, but simple for our guys, right? The plays are repeatable. They're doing the same blocking. They're working the same combinations between center guard, guard tackle, but we'll use these motions to make it look different and complicated for the defense and confuse them instead of having these huge menu of plays in our first year in the offense and confuse our offense. Because a lot of what we saw, and I think why they put Braxton Jones on the bench, was the mental mistakes in the run game in those first 5 games. Those are the things that really confuse you. It looked like they're working to the wrong linebackers, or certain people didn't know, the receivers didn't know who they had, the Bears didn't know who they had. But I'm very interested in this game as it goes on. Obviously, the Saints aren't a great team or a great defense and a place here, but as the year goes on, I really thought the Commanders presented them a really simple look. When they went to 3 wide receivers, by that they went to a 4-2, a 6-man box. They didn't move much. They didn't try to confuse the Bears much. Just kind of lined up, and then the Bears ran motion on them. But very smart coaching. Really, I thought they went to the bye week and just said, basically, look, let's ask guys to do what they're good at. And then they did it, right? And I think the biggest thing, a lot of teams talk about what's wrong and what they have to change to win football games, Lawrence speaks, but they actually identified it, man. They actually identified it in the bye week and asked their players to do what they're good at. Actually identify what, when you look at their film, you think their problems are. They identified it, and for one game, they fixed it.
Now, what you just said, that last 90 seconds or whatever, is, I think, the biggest and best sign of why this coach might be a superstar. Like, I really like the personality stuff. I like the connection he has with them. But actually using the bye to figure out what the guys do and focus on that. We've heard other coaches do that, and just talk about it and never actually do it. Let me ask you this on the run game. DeAndre Swift averaged 4.71 yards before contact, Olin, the most of any running back in week 6. How did they figure out, I guess you touched on a little bit with Bobby Wagner, but how did they figure out to get him so much space before anybody even gets to him? It's amazing to me.
Yeah, the motions were really important, and their alignments and the way they formationed. It's hard to talk about on radio, but that's what we do. So the way they formationed the Washington Commanders, by that I meant 3 wide receivers, tight end, hopping over to a different strength of formation, moving to what, Zacchaeus back across, and then actually sometimes bringing Cole Kmet back across 2 guys in the same direction and inserting a wide receiver in a hole to block a linebacker. Seems complicated, but guess what, guys? For the offensive line, it's the same play. They have the same guys. They do the same thing over and over again. And I thought that the interior guys, Dahlman, Tooney, obviously we all know Darnell Wright does a great job there at right tackle, really good. And Jackson did a really nice job on their combo blocks. Looked like they understood it. Theo Benedict, man, that guy will give you everything he's got. I'm going to tell you right now, take that guy to a bar fight. He'll flail all over the place, kick somebody, hit him with his arm. He'll make his block somehow, some way. He's getting after somebody, and that goes a long way in the NFL. But, Speeds, I think they really just identified what they did well. Asked Swift to do what he does well, right? Got him outside the tackles, but probably told him this. We'll give you those toss plays that you like. But then when we put you in between the tackles, we need you to run downhill and run through contact. And for one game, he did that. Now, you worry about him popping up on the injury report, right? It's one thing I thought about. I said, man, this was the team, guys. I don't know what you guys thought. I thought when I watched the film, this was the team we heard about that scrimmaged the Miami Dolphins. Those are the guys, right? That physical football team, the guys who hit people in 7-on-7, the guys who got after people all the time. That was a team I watched on film. But guess what? They had 15 days off. Do it again. Right, you got to do it again, and you got to do it again, and you got to keep attacking people and getting after people with the same intensity, pad level, and footwork that they had going into this past game.
Olin, we've heard that the coaches like Theo Benedict because of his work ethic, because he's a quick study, and because he's got a nasty streak. I like hearing about
that on film. You see all that on film, man.
Tell us.
That guy actually pops out of his stance on silent count faster than anybody. That's a lot of work. He works hard at his craft. He works hard. He never beats himself. He makes the guy beat him. By that I mean, I know this sounds simple, and Tony Wise is there with you guys in the studio, and I learned this from Tony. Put this yourself between the defensive end and the quarterback and make him beat you. And that's what he does. He gets to his spot every time. And then on the run game, guys, he takes a good step. His pads are low, and he's running his feet and getting after the guys. Sometimes he's bear crawling through guys. His head is down. There's some plays, Frankie Louvu ran him over. His arms are in the air. His leg is kicking him over the guy's head. I don't even know what he's doing half the time. But he is fun to watch, man. He is fun to watch play football and get after people. If you enjoy a guy who gives you everything he's got, watch Theo on Sunday.
I'm not sure what to make of the Saints because I watch them. I watch a team that's clearly at a talent disadvantage to other teams around the league, but they've played hard. And so I'm a little worried about this game just because this is a team that doesn't quit. And the Bears recently have also been a team that doesn't quit. And they've got Brandon Staley on their defensive side calling the defense over there. I would love to know what you see when you turned on their tape.
Yeah, the exact same thing, right? And then you also do, even though you think, okay, the way they're playing, and when you're watching them, they're not playing high-level football. They don't have a lot of explosive plays, right? They're not very good in the red zone. Their defense is good enough to stop the run, but they give up explosive plays. But then you go through and you're like, man, on film, that's Alvin Kamara, right? It's Chris Olave. Man, that's Talise Fuaga. Like, they have 4 first-round picks on the offensive line. That's Cam Jordan, his 15th year. Guys, he was drafted the year I was in the Saints. That's how long he's been there.
Wow.
So, Carl Granderson, they have 2 good pass-rushing DNs, right? They do a pretty nice job. DeMario Davis, high-level middle linebacker. I'm with you, Lawrence. It's you don't see a lot of good football out of them. Kellen Moore, first-year coach, right? Staley's there. They got a lot of people that actually one of their assistant offensive, like the older guys there, Scott Linehan, who was the Rams head coach. I think he coached the Lions for a while. He was my offensive coordinator at Washington. But they got all these names there, but not playing good football right now. But Obviously, when you match up the roster for roster, I think the Bears are a little better, Lawrence. But it's a good question by you because they're not that much better, right? They're not in that category yet. And we're all wondering, okay, man, you've looked better. You've stopped the run. You've run the ball. You beat a very good team in the Commanders. Obviously, it took Jaden Daniels dropping the ball on that drive. But what are you if the turnover differential is even? That's a question I have left when I watch the Chicago Bears.
Do you see the Bears playing as hungry and as effort-filled as they need to? And will it continue? Now that they got a nice win, I hope I don't see any taking the foot off the gas.
No, that's a completely. You should worry about that because when you watch them play this past week, there was tons of energy. They were really physical. They had 15 days off, right? The body got healthy. Now, listen, you got to take advantage of those 15 days, and you got to give them credit for that. And you got to identify what you do wrong. And they came out, right, on Monday Night Football. Easy to be up for Monday Night Football, as you guys know, right? The whole country's watching. You went there, guys. Tons of motivation in that game, right? Got really embarrassed there last year. Monday Night Football. Everybody's watching. We got to go win this football game. Steve, your point is valid. Can you concentrate? Can you focus? Can you do all the things you need to do and do it again and beat a team like the New Orleans Saints that Lawrence points out, and I agree with him, just good enough to beat you if you don't show up ready.
You're listening to a Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric Football Friday, presented by your local Ford dealers and Potawatomi Casino Hotel. With the kicking game being back in flux again, Jake Moody is going to be the kicker for this team because Cairo Santos is out. How important is it to get a guy that clearly came in and just did the work last week in Jake Moody and seems to understand kind of like the role of the backup kicker of just like, be seen and not heard and go out there and do your job?
See, there you go, Lawrence. We kicked off this whole segment with I have a very specific image I stick to. Now you want me to talk about kickers. That's fine.
It's a very specific brand identity.
This is usually a Patrick Manley thing, but I'll do it, man. Hey, Moody, man. Oh, hey, listen. All the O-linemen are out there busting their butt all day. You made the kick, we'll carry you off the field, right? That's fine. We'll do that. We'll do it. Okay, no, Lord, really, really important, right? I mean, you can't have how important were those field goals in that game. I thought one of the best throws and things that Caleb did against the Commanders was actually the second drive, right? Remember, they had that PI on Colston Loveland. They backed him up. It was 3rd and 20, and he checked it down to DJ Moore. And actually, it was the play that DJ Moore got hurt on. But DJ Moore caught it, I think, 7 or 8 yards, and he gained 6 or 7 more. And they make that field goal, right? They win by 1. Really important the way he's just delivering the ball and to have a kicker who can take advantage of that field goal range and a guy who can step in when somebody's hurt and do the job. I mean, we saw how important it was that night. My time on kickers is now up.
All right, fair enough. But the point that you make about getting in position, I think is really interesting too. Do you feel like you're seeing Caleb understanding the value of those plays, the hidden yards inside of a drive, that instead of going for a knockout punch or a big play, let your guys do some of the work too, and you can still end up in a positive drive?
Yeah, what do we always hear, right? Get the ball in your playmakers' hands. Let them make plays, right? Manage the game and then win the game when it's time to win the game. And even at the end of the game, when it's time to win the game, he hits Colston Loveland on 35 for the first down, right? Why did he do that? He found him sitting in the zone, in the hole, big target. That's why he was drafted. And then that arm talent, guys, that ball zipped into Colston Loveland's chest. I mean, when Caleb throws the ball, it is fun to watch, right? And then the touchdown, obviously, to Swift. Right, that was just a short pass, a little pick play there, motion to a bunch and hit him. And then, guys, even though his numbers didn't look great, I do say this. If Zacchaeus catches that ball, he might be over 300 yards passing for the game. So, yes, we do want to see the explosives that he's missed to Rome a couple of times when I guess they call it the mailbox. Declan Doyle, who looks like he's in 7th grade, comes up there and talks. He calls it the mailbox. When those guys if those guys hit those plays that Ben Johnson designs right after Brisker's takeaway, he designed a motion. That play was a beautiful design, and Rome was wide open. I'm sure with all the quarterback gurus you guys have all week, You've talked about all this, but it is fun to watch him play quarterback. Now we just need a few more explosive plays because, like I talked about, you're +2 during the game, and then you're losing all of a sudden in the third quarter, right? Like, how is that? How are we doing that, right? How are we actually have to get one more takeaway to win the game?
Olin, you can't spell O-line without Olin. That's from our texter, the Gridiron Assassin, that's pretty perfect right there. All right, I'm going to throw this at you. I threw it at Tony Wise yesterday, and he didn't like it. Ben Johnson calling Darnell Wright a unicorn, right? It pissed Tony off. But the point is that Darnell is athletically kind of special. And I don't know if you agree with that or not, but Ben says you got to try and get him in space, have him pull a little bit, maybe do things he hasn't done a whole lot of in the past. Is Darnell Wright gifted athletically in terms of O-lineman in your mind? And does that make sense, the way that Ben Johnson says he wants to try to get him outside a little bit?
Yeah, he is a unicorn compared to normal people, right? Like, you got to remember Tony Wise coached Larry Allen, right? So unicorns, if you compare two unicorns, Larry Allen's a unicorn, right? So you got to remember where Tony's coming from. But as far as Darnell Wright and the way he can move for his size and playing with his elbow injury, getting him out there in what they call toss crack and running at wide receivers and getting and noticing someone misses their block and hitting that guy with his left hand, and then they'll go hit somebody, and just the things he's able to do with his footwork. His right arm doesn't really work, but he can get himself in front of defensive ends and still block them because he's so massive and he moves so well. So for your normal person on the street, this man is a unicorn. I bet you he can play basketball. I bet you he can do a lot of things most people his size can't do because of how fluid he moves, and that's why he got taken so high in the draft, and that's probably why when he was in junior high, he ran and hit somebody and someone said, that guy's going to play in the NFL one day.